everyone, I am Alice and today I'm going to show you how I made my Frieren cosplay. Did I just forget to make an intro and quickly put something together in front of the camera? Maybe. Did I just finish the photo shoot and need a shower because I still look like a weird fairy with very weird makeup? Also, maybe. Did I totally forget to show my face in this whole video because I was just too worried on finishing it on time? Definitely maybe, so enjoy the process. There we go. As usual, I am late to the party and I started this cosplay quite late because I didn't start watching Beyond Journeys until it was already halfway through. And oh my god, I fell in love. What a show, I love it. Nothing happens, everything happens, it's awesome. And I really wanted to finish this cosplay before the season finale. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to, so I quickly made some plans and I started working on it. The cosplay itself is not very difficult compared to other things I've made in the past. I will be making a princess theme dress, a capelet and her magic stuff. Everything super easy, like, yeah. You know how super easy is in cosplay, so yeah, let's just get started. Oh, and by the way, as always, I am making my own patterns for this cosplay and I will be leaving you a link in the description if you want to download them and save yourself some thinking and maths time as well. And rest assured, all my patterns have the approval stamp of my cat. Lovely. Like any other project, I start my process by making a mock-up. This is super important to make sure the dress will fit how I want. I got this skirting fabric for free and it is the perfect weight for this project. If you don't know how to get free fabric, just say, hey, I can sew, and people will get you free stuff like all the time, honestly. To save some time, I simply put my patterns on top of the fabric and kept them in place with some weights. Of course, cats are allowed too, but they are not very useful. Then, I just need to cut the pieces. Do not forget to add the seam allowances. And play with the cut. Here you can see how in my first try the pattern did not work, and that's quite common. So I adjusted it until I got it right, and all of these will already be modified in the final pattern. Once I tested all my pieces, I moved on to my main fabric. For this project, I will be using brocade fabric, gold bias tape, and this brocade ribbon that I got in gold. You can, however, use gold fabric instead, and it may be slightly easier to apply the gold fabric than it was to apply this ribbon. Of course, I also got some cheap elf ears and earrings from AliExpress to complete the look. There is actually a story behind this fabric. I actually got it for free because the store I bought it from sent me the wrong one. I wanted a flowery satin, it was very beautiful, and instead they sent me this, which looks more like a tablecloth to me. And I just talked with them and told them that they had sent me the wrong fabric, and after a month I just got them to refund my order. Unfortunately, I never got the flowery fabric, so I'm a bit gutted about it, but hey, this is cosplay, you can even make a tablecloth look good, so go to your thrift store, get any fabrics that you like, and you will be able to make a very pretty cosplay without spending a lot of money. Once again, don't forget to add your seam allowances and mark all those little notches that will help you assemble the cosplay later on. So the problem with this fabric is it's actually not as wide as usual fabric. So in order to make my skirt, my mock-up was short. I was gonna make it like 6 centimeters longer, but this is what happens. I'm gonna have to do this slightly shorter, but it's okay, who doesn't like a mini skirt? Like, these things happen, you just like adapt to the materials you've got, and I really want to use this fabric, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Hopefully it won't end up too weird on the sides. Frieren's dress has a few black strips on her fabric, and it is probably going to be quite difficult to get the right color and the right shape for this piece, so I decided to sew strips of ribbon to the front piece instead. Black ribbon would have been the most accurate, but I decided to use brocade instead because I had it and I liked it. And just remember, you can modify your cosplay as much as you want because it's your cosplay and you just choose to wear it the way you want it. Time to sew the front seams. If you remember the notches you made before, it is time to align them to position the pieces in the right place. Place your fabric right sides together and start pinning from the center. The bottom part is easier to pin. Once you have it, rotate your fabric and carry on pinning outwards. And here's the trick nobody told you. Fabric at an angle won't match. You want to make sure you are aligning your sewing line. Otherwise, once you sew the edges, if you don't do it correctly, the edge won't match and it will be weird looking at the top and probably too wide at some points and looking bulky, so trust me on this. The back follows the exact same process. Before you carry on, don't forget to iron all your pieces. This is crucial to make a good cosplay. And it will actually make it easier on the next steps. With your front and back panels assembled, you can join the sides. And also make sure to match the seams on your shoulders. The skirt is very easy to assemble, and you just need to sew a straight line on the sides. I will be assembling the rest of the dress later. For now, let's move on to the sleeves. Frieren's sleeves have very wide cuffs, and you're going to need to line them for best results. Of course, you don't have to, it just looks better. I am going to do it like this. I will be using the same fabric I used for my mock-up, but you can use any fabric or even the same as you used for the dress. It's not going to be seen. Simply attach all the pieces together so it looks like a longer sleeve. When you fold it back in place, you get your perfect cuff. And the excess will be hidden on the inside. Before I carry on, I will be adding the trim to the sleeves now. As all the lines are straight, there is no issue with me using the ribbon as bias tape on this particular part, but I do recommend you to use bias tape instead because it's gonna look smoother. Unfortunately, I only had enough bias tape to make my color, as the other pieces I had were the wrong color. But the ribbon worked in a pinch. For now, I will only attach the bottom rows before I fold my sleeves in half and sew them. And of course, the best you match your seams, the better it will look. and after I folded my sleeve upwards, I was able to attach my bias tape, which was not bias tape, but you know what I mean. With the sleeves prepared, it is time to match them with the notches on your bodice. One notch usually marks the front and 2 notches mark the back. And my trick is to turn the bodice inside out with your sleeve still inside to get the right sides together. Yeah, I know it's confusing. It did take me ages to figure out how to attach the sleeves, and my best advice is to practice a lot. But if you need the extra help, join my Patreon. This month I am adding a tutorial on how to attach the sleeves, and that's just one of the many files you can access once you become a member. Patreon helps me feed the cats, and you do get a lot of extra content, including early releases for my new patterns. Once you have your sleeve prepared, you just have to sew it. And the next thing we have to do is attach the tabs. I made mine with the same trim attached to a piece of leather, but you can just do it with fabric and some interfacing and adding more bias tape to the edges. And with the sleeves attached, it is time to sew the skirt to the bodice. But before I finish this piece, I will be assembling the capelet. For the main body, you simply have to sew the sides and the back. And I am lining the whole thing, so I repeated the same steps for the lining. It is a good idea to hang your pieces for a day or so to make sure your fabric does not warp due to gravity. If it does happen, make sure your pieces match and cut the excess. Right sides together, I sew my lining to the capelet, leaving the collar open, and then I simply had to turn the piece inside out. Time to add some trim. And you may think this is the easiest part, but it is actually not. The reason is your trim is completely straight and you will be sewing it to a curve, which means the bottom side is slightly wider than the top. So we are going to have to convince the ribbon to adapt to our shape. Enter the iron. You can actually use heat to slightly shape your ribbon, at least just enough so it is easier to sew it. The straight part is not an issue, you will only have to pin it to your fabric normally. And this is how I make a sharp corner. Simply fold the ribbon up and then align the edge with the bottom hem. Start pinning your ribbon in place, and when the curve starts, use your iron to slightly shape it. You may notice the top part will curl up a little. Try to keep it to a minimum, but just know it is unavoidable because it's, after all, longer than it should be. Keep going and pin as you go. And you can now sew it at the top and the bottom. The skirt will follow the exact same process later on. This is how it looks from the outside. And the inside looks super clean as well. The collar goes next, but don't forget to add the little tabs to the sides before you start sewing it. I am adding bias tape to the edges, so I do not need any seam allowances at the top or sides of the collar. Also, I will only be needing one side of the collar to overlap, so I cut the excess on the opposite side where it says center front. This is one of those weird colors with bias tape at the bottom. However, bias tape is meant to go on edges. My solution was to sew my bias tape slightly higher so the other edge will get sewn directly to the hem. Basically, I will be sewing half of the bias tape in the hem. The rest of the bias tape is sewn at the very edge. When you turn the tape, this is how it looks. The front should, however, stand alone with no seam allowances, so I am going to cut the excess fabric here. You will need to cut a little notch so it stays in place correctly. You can do it by machine, but I decided to just sew the bias tape by hand to keep it secure. And this is how it looks from the outside and the inside. And I was able to finally sew the collar to the capelet. Half of the bias tape at the bottom is hidden by the hem. My fabric was a bit thick to fold inwards, so I decided to cheat and hide the raw edges with a bit of bias tape. And I was finally able to go back to the dress. I realized Frieren's collar is supposed to be square, so I changed this and I also changed it in the pattern. Same as with the capelet, I sew the lining following the same steps as with the dress, and I am going to be sewing just the collar for now. To turn it properly, you will need to cut a notch in the corners of the collar. And this is optional, but instead of top stitching, I decided to understitch the collar. This means I sew the lining to the seam allowance of the dress to prevent it from peeking out. Right sides together, I also sew the bottom of the skirt to the lining. I turn the fabric and I attach the ribbon the same way as with the capelet. And I only needed to attach a long enough zipper to the back. The lining in the cuffs and at the back is sewn by hand. And with this, the dress is finished and I can move on to the stuff. But before I do my magic, let me tell you about this week's sponsor, which is Mocha Queen, because you don't need any magic to change your eye color. Mocha Queen offers a great variety of contact lenses for all your cosplay needs, and this time I asked them to send me a pair of contact lenses that would fit Frieren and Fen, and these ones are the ones that I got. I love Mocha Queen lenses because they are super comfortable and they ship very quickly, especially if you are in the US. They also have all the certificate that certify they are safe for your eyes both in the US and Europe, and in this occasion I will be using these anime style contact lenses for my Frieren because I love this style and I think it fits her so perfectly. Thank you so much, Mocha Queen, for sponsoring this video, and now we can carry on crafting. I cut several layers of 5mm foam with the shape of a half moon. once again, you can find the patterns on my Patreon. I made some space in the middle layer to insert wood dowels, and I glued them temporarily with super glue. And I used contact cement to attach the other layers. I will be making the edges rounder with my Dremel, and I like marking how deep I need to go to make sure it is all even. You can go through different grids and finish with sandpaper if you want a very smooth finish. I just wanted it good enough to be good for the pictures. And don't forget to seal the foam with your heat gun to make sure it's easier to paint it. I used a stiffer foam to use as the center of my staff. And once again, I cut the excess to fit my dowels. Another thin layer of foam on top keeps it from moving. For the domes in the middle, I used transparent warbler, which I heated on top of a round surface. I also decided to add fairy lights to the inside, however, the circuit was too big, so I had to modify it myself. I carved a space on the foam so I could attach my new circuit. And I used hot glue to attach all the lights. The extra details are done with half foam dowels, a bit more extra foam, and some foam clay. I sealed it all with several layers of flexi paint, and then I only had to paint it using spray cans. Final details attached with a glue gun, and a few extra details to just hide my seams, and the stuff was done. Are you ready for the reveal? you very much to the patrons, you make these crazy videos possible, and thank you all for watching. Remember, you can support me for free by liking and sharing my videos. Let me know in the comments what cosplays you would like me to do next. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to be the first to know about my new videos. I will be seeing you in my next adventure. Bye!